Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is a get ready with me. I was doing this look. I'll put all the products in the description because I probably didn't mention them in the video, but it's Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth, everyone. So yeah, in this video I just want to highlight some Black lives that have been lost to police brutality that we don't really talk about a lot. So without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, so hey guys, I'm back. I'm assuming I already did the intro, so I'm gonna jump right in. Okay, so today is Juneteenth. If you don't know what Juneteenth is, Google is free. I'm not a history teacher. Anyways, I'm choosing to celebrate that this year instead of 4th of July. I didn't really celebrate 4th of July. I was just young and I used to go to whatever cookout I was taken to. So I wanted to do a little get ready with me, but it's not gonna be like a normal get ready with me. Y'all see some of the stuff that's like going on in the world. Police brutality, just people getting murdered in the streets in broad daylight on video and people not going to jail, the police not going to jail in particular. I mean, we've heard about this countless times, especially throughout my lifetime. And I just feel like there's a lot of people's names that get lost in the movement and people that we don't talk about because we're talking about other people, which is, it's not wrong, but because there's so many and it shouldn't be that many people getting killed by the police, but there's so many. Today, I just wanna bring some light to some of the names that we never really talk about. First, we're going to talk about Natasha McKenna. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of her before, but Natasha was a 37-year-old woman, Black woman living with mental illness, and she died just 5 days after deputies removed her from her cell in Fairfax County Adult Detention Center to transport her to another facility. There's a 48-minute video, and in the video you can see Natasha grunting and crying out while the deputies are trying to restrain her. And pretty much the deputies, they could not get control of her, so instead they decided to shock her, a mentally ill Black woman in a detention center. They shocked her naked 4 times with a stun gun within 2 minutes. And the Fairfax County medical examiner ruled the death an accident. Therefore, none of the officers were charged with her murder. And I just want to make sure that we, as we're protesting and marching for Black lives and fighting for Black lives, we don't forget Natasha's name because she didn't deserve that. And in the description box of this video, I'll leave petitions you can sign because we still need justice for Breonna Taylor, as most of you probably know. We still need justice for her and just a number of other people. So definitely check my description box for petitions you can sign. All right, I'm gonna prime with this. And the next person I want to bring up is Tanisha Anderson. Tanisha was a 37-year-old Black woman and she was also living with mental illness. What happened with Tanisha was police were called on Anderson by her brother because she was living with mental illness and they kind of needed help to restrain her. So what did they do? They called the police. And so 2 officers initially arrived and they were able to de-escalate the situation and they left. But then Tanisha they had to call the police again on her 45 minutes later because she was trying to leave the house dressed only in a nightgown. So her family was just kind of trying to protect her. The second set of police that came were Detective Scott Aldridge and his partner, Brian Myers. And basically when they got there, they took it upon themselves to slam Tanisha Anderson onto the ground, onto the pavement and handcuff her. And somewhere in the midst of this encounter, Tanisha stopped breathing, probably when they slammed her against the ground. And the coroner ruled Tanisha's death a homicide, but there was never an arrest for her murder. So her murderers are probably still walking around living their everyday regular lives. And she's not able to. Next, we're gonna talk about Pamela Turner. On May 13th, 2019, Pamela Turner was killed by a Baytown police officer outside of her apartment complex. The original story that Officer Juan de la Cruz said was that he was trying to arrest Miss Turner and for outstanding warrants. And when she resisted, he tried to tase her. But when he tried to tase her, it didn't incapacitate her. So she grabbed the taser and pointed it back on him and tried to shoot him. So then that's when he shot her. That was the original story. But a year later, after this happened, we find out that the taser that Officer Juan de la Cruz had is only able to be shot 1 time and then has to be reloaded. So he knew this, and he knew that even if she did shoot the taser back at him, it wouldn't work because it hadn't been manually reloaded. He knew that she could really cause no harm to him by pointing the taser at him, and he still shot her. He could have wrestled the taser out of her hand. He could have He could have not killed her, but instead he did. All right, so now we're gonna move on to a Tatiana Jefferson. That name might sound familiar, and if it does, you might have heard her story. Officer Aaron Dean was called because a Tatiana Jefferson was at her mother's house and she was babysitting her 8-year-old nephew, and the door was left open. So somebody called the police to do just a welfare check. So when he gets there, Officer Aaron Dean and his partner, I don't know the partner's name. I'm pretty sure Officer Aaron Dean is the one that shot her, so I guess that's why they didn't mention the partner. When they got there, they did not identify themselves. And the situation ended in them shooting and killing a Tatiana Jefferson in front of her nephew. Now, her nephew did say that when she heard noises outside, she pulled out a gun and pointed it towards the window, as anybody would. If they heard noises outside and they owned a gun, they would. And the police said that she was well within her right to do that. Now, I do believe, I can check, but I do believe Officer Aaron Dean did get charged for this murder. I just want y'all to understand that it's not a crime to be a Black woman. And all these women were killed for pretty much just existing. And even if the situation did escalate, what are the police here for? If not to de-escalate situations. And last but certainly not least, honestly certainly not last, but just the last one we're gonna mention for this video in particular, I'm gonna talk about Roy Nelson. Roy Nelson was a Black man. He was 42 and he was living with mental illness as well. And he called the police on himself, actually. The gag. He called the police on himself because he wanted some help. He didn't put up a fight. He was even put into the car without handcuffs. So when they pulled over to wait for the paramedics, Roy started talking about how he couldn't breathe. The police kind of weren't listening to him, kind of were ignoring him. He started to become agitated, as anyone would when they're not being listened to and they can't breathe. So he started trying to kick out the back of the police car. So anyways, they ended up taking him out of the car. They had him get on the ground. They laid on top of him and they arrested him. So after 20 seconds of being on the ground, he told the police officers again that he could not breathe. Still, they didn't listen to him. They put him in a full body restraint, and then after a while in the full body restraint, he stopped breathing completely. After the medical examiner looked at his body, they said that his death was due to physical exertion and a methamphetamine intoxication. Me personally, I don't care what it was, because he told them he couldn't breathe and they ignored him, and that cost him his life. Roy Nelson, he was the last one I actually wanted to talk about. I didn't want to fill this video with too many names. I probably could have did a few more though, now that I think about it. I might do another one, we'll see. But my feelings on the situation, I'm definitely glad everybody's kind of waking up and realizing that the police may not actually be here to help. Oh, I see this one post that was like, for certain situations, we shouldn't even be calling the police. Like, for instance, situations dealing with addiction and drug abuse, we need to call people that are certified to handle those types of situations. Like, why are we calling the police? Or like when people are, like say a homeless person is like laying on a park bench or something, why call the police? Like, call a social worker. I feel like the rioting was a good thing. You can't make me think otherwise, because I feel like Black people we've been talking about all this stuff for years, all this police brutality for years, and I feel like now we finally get some white people to open their eyes. Some people are just trying to just hop on the bandwagon just cause, but I definitely feel like there are some people that are genuine out there and that are genuinely outraged by what's going on and what has been going on in this country. Until I see some changes, I'm always gonna be anti-police over here. Anyways, that's all for that. So I'm gonna finish up my face, put on my eyelashes, and I'll be right back. All right, so that concludes this video. In conclusion, I don't even want to say like, comment, subscribe, all that. In conclusion, Black Lives Matter, that's it, period. Cut the cameras, that's all.